George Mueller was a great missionary. And the thing that's most known probably about him is prayer. He lived a very sinful life until he was about 30 years old and came to Christ. And then he goes to missionary school because he wants to be a missionary. Then he goes, after he completes missionary school, he goes in front of the missionary board, and they turn him down to be a missionary because he led too sinful of a life before he got saved. And so he said, Lord, what do I do? The Lord said, pray. So he prayed for 1 year. And then the Lord said, now go to this city. So he went to a city he'd been saving for that year, went to a city, walked to the only church in that city and said, I'd like to speak to the pastor. And they said, well, our pastor resigned last Sunday. He said, well, I graduated from missionary school and God called me to be a missionary to this city. They said, you're hired. He got there on the exact day that he should tell them that. He becomes the pastor. Then they start orphanages all the time. All he would do is pray. By the way, the first thing that he did was he implemented tithing because people were buying seats. That's how the church was making their money. People would buy seats and sit where they wanted to sit. Now, we're not going to talk about if you ever bought a seat. So, all right, so he implemented tithing, and he said, we're not going to pass the plate because I want people to give out of a free will. He put boxes beside the doors. I actually thought that I invented that until I read his story. And then they started orphanages, and in the late 1800s, listen to this, their mission giving from this little church was $7.5 million. They started more orphanages than any missionary organization before or since, and all out of prayer. When he got saved, he had 5 friends, very close friends. He prayed for them. 3 of them got saved in 10 years, took 10 years. He said he prayed every day for them. The 4th one got saved 25 years later. The 5th one, George Mueller, lived 52 years after he got saved. He died. Right before his death, his friend heard him praying for this person he'd been praying for 52 years. He died, and the person he was praying for came and knelt at his graveside and gave his life to Christ. Because God answers prayer. We pray to the supreme ruler of the universe. Well, here's the second doctrine that's misunderstood, the immutability of God.